historical black school, they put us in the second section. So the first section ran, and they came in first, and they ran a very good time, the fastest time of the year up to that point. And I can remember the people from Villanova. That was one of our schools we were competing against. They were going to pick up their medals. They were ready to, they were elated that they ran the time that they did. So the guys at the starting line, he says, we got to hurry up and get this race on because it's nationally televised. If we don't hurry up and get this race on, it won't be on TV. So they fired the gun and we ran and we broke the standing record at that particular time. So the coach said afterwards, the reason they broke the record was because they wanted to be on television. They had to hurry up and get that race over. But this is just part of the experience that I went through. Again, as I started off by saying, I wasn't a top student, but I had a lot of discipline from this athletic experience. And that discipline is key for young people. If you want to be successful in the future, you've got to be able to tap into control, order, and discipline. Those are extremely important. If you can focus on what's being said to you, if you can concentrate on people talking to you and telling you things, it's going to be the thing that takes you over the top. I've seen people that I know were extremely bright, but for some reason they weren't able to make it to the finish line. For something happened between where they were and where they finished that they didn't allow themselves or push themselves that extra mile. So you've got to be like the extra mile club. If other people are running 1, you got to run 2. If they do 2, you got to do 4. You got to always push yourself that next level. Now, to the Nation of Islam, when I graduated from Morgan, which was in 1967, I spent a lot of time around the nation. I wasn't ready to totally commit. I ate 1 meal a day. I drank black coffee. I must have weighed about 120 pounds. I was like thin as a rail. I was fasting every 3 days, 3 days every month. I was doing everything the Nation of Islam was doing. But I hadn't committed myself. I used to go to the mass rallies, I used to go to bazaars, but I didn't join the nation. And a friend of mine, Plato Smith, came by the house. He was a Jehovah's Witness. He came by the house and he liked to talk the Bible, and we used to go into this. And I told him, I'm down with the Nation of Islam. And he said, are you a member? I said, no. He said, well, that's nothing. That's nothing. It rang in my head like a bell going on. He's right. I could sit here and talk about the Nation of Islam, all this, that, and the other, but if I'm not registered and a member of the Nation of Islam, it counts for naught. The following month, first Sunday in January of 69, I went to the mosque, stood up. It was a mass, a unity. Mosques from all over the city were at 7C, Madison and Bedford. And I stood up and accepted Islam at that particular time. And shortly after that, once you get your X, you go into the orientation class. I went into the orientation class and they were asking us at that time, I said we had to sell something like 200 papers. So, I had worked out a system how I could work this out, because selling the papers and being in the Nation of Islam went together. If you could discipline yourself to figure out how you could do this, you'd find yourself over there with my brother, the dean, in front of the investigator, and in trouble with the captain. So I was able to figure this out. Also, at the same time, the University of Islam at 116th Street was getting ready to open. In 65, when Malcolm died, about a week after that, or a few days after that, they burned the temple down. They burned it to the ground, the whole building. And in December 1969, we went back into to the mosque. It was brand new, fixed up, made on. And we opened up the University of Islam. At that time, I was working for the Board of Ed. I put my resignation in and went over to be a part of the University of Islam. The University of Islam at the time, we had about 500 students. that came to the school. And the Board of Education was very upset. They couldn't figure this out. 500 students putting their application in the Board of Education to withdraw into the University of Islam. They wanted to know what's going on up there. So shortly after we opened the school up, a delegation from the Board of Ed came to the school to see what was going on. They sent the superintendent, they sent someone from 110 Livingston Street. They want to know what's happening. All these people withdrawing their children from school, and they took them on a tour through the school. Captain Yusuf Shah was leading the people throughout the building. He was very influential. You know, he had a move that he would walk like this, and they would turn around. That was his favorite, one of his favorite moves. And you know, I guess he had them so, you know, he wished them through. They sent a letter back to us that they wrote to the chancellor, letting them know what they saw at the University of Islam. They said they saw teachers who had certifications and taught in the public school system. They said they saw closed circuit TVs in each one of the classrooms. They said they saw the students in the classroom ordered and disciplined and sitting there copying and doing their assignments. They were completely taken over by what they saw at the university. The University of Islam stayed like that with 500 students for about a semester, and then we opened up a high school. And the high school is in the Marcella area that we have now on the third floor. We used to have about 125 brothers in the morning, and then 125 sisters in the afternoon. As we grew to be so big, we had to move up to the Bronx. We had a separate school for boys at 1000 Morris Avenue. And that school remained there until, I remained there until 1974. And we opened up the school in Brooklyn. We had 200 boys in the morning, 200 girls in the afternoon, and then I was asked to do double duty in the morning back up in the Bronx. So we had total, throughout the city of New York, we had 1,500 students. At 120 Madison Street, if you look in front of the door, there's a sign there that says no parking between the school hours. And we got that purposely because we used to have over here alone, when I was the principal, we had 4 school buses. We had a whole fleet of school buses throughout the city that would pick the children up and drop them off, the younger children. The older high school students came on their own. The boys, the girls took the bus. But we used to have several of the buses here in Brooklyn. Red bus, orange bus, blue bus. They would travel all through the community, pick the children up, drop them off, come back, get the girls, drop them off, take the boys, drop them off, come back, get the girls. Big time. We have so many cars, so many trucks, so many buses. We bought a garage, a service station out on Northern Boulevard. We had our own service station where we Sunoco gas. We sold our own gas, and that just happened to be the same time they had the strike with Jimmy Carter, and they cut the supply of gasoline off. We drove the whole time because, you know, we used to bring our cars and fill up. We had a special pump where all the people in the nation could get their gas. And I really recall that because my grandmother passed around that same time. And everybody was concerned about driving to this funeral and how they were going to get back and forth. So I spoke to Brother Andrew, bring no cars out, fill everybody's tank up, and everybody was set for that particular point. Then just moving right along, in 1974, we were having mass rallies all around the city of New York. We had a mass rally in Brooklyn at Friendship Baptist Church on Nostrand Avenue in Herkimer. We had over 2,000 people piled in the Friendship Baptist Church. A few weeks later, we went out to Rochdale Village. We had about 2,000 people from out in Rochdale Village. About 2 or 3 weeks later, we were in the Bronx at Co-op City. They had these big community rooms. We had like 2,000 people. In fact, the brothers came over from New Jersey. We had an FOI class with about 2,000 brothers. This is prior to the next move. Since I ran track, we were in a meeting with the minister. And I had mentioned, you know, how many of you heard of the Tri-Borough Bridge? When we mean Tri-Borough, you know what it means. 3 boroughs. Manhattan, the Bronx, and Queens. The bridge connects all 3 boroughs. Underneath the bridge is Randall's Island. And that's where we used to run track. So I put my hand up and said, Brother Minister, we were in Brooklyn, we had this number, we had there, we had that number, we were there. We should do a culminating activity at Randall's Island where all the boroughs can meet in one place. And he took it to Chicago, and the master, Elijah Muhammad, approved it. But he said, no entertainment. The first one that we have in 1973, it was all just on like a mass rally that we normally would have. And we attracted about 12,000 people. The following year, he said, you have my permission to have entertainment. Oh, that's all we needed. I mean, they were all there. I mean, we had, you name the groups, you know, they, in other words, the place was Billy Paul was singing Mrs. Jones or something, like the Delphines, and they had, you know, Blue Man, I had them all, and then they had a Latin, all the Latin groups, Eddie Palmieri, they had the Afro-Cuban, they had the, Ali was there, Jim Brown was there, all the big, 70,000 people turned out. I got an album, I'm trying to find out. I keep asking the photographers, but I didn't find out until later. They were taking pictures all the time, and I found out until later. I don't think they had any film in the cameras. Nobody ever saw any of the pictures. I used to tease them about that. Anyway, I wanted to get one of the stadium pictures so you could see the inside of the stadium at Randall's Island. 70,000 people. And at that time, the president, he was on his way out, but in '72, he had made a trip. That was Nixon. He made a trip to China. We had the people there from the Republic of China. They were selling sushi, party cases out there. The place was packed. I mean, and we control all food and drink at the bazaars. I know we must have made a ton of money with that. That Family Day Part 2, yeah, it was packed. Shortly after that, and one thing I want to mention too, when we did the school system, every Tuesday, my wife was a member of the teaching staff there. Every Tuesday, we had a teachers meeting. Minister Farrakhan would conduct the teachers meeting. Now, I don't know everybody's relationship with Minister Farrakhan, but I will tell you this, when it came to Elijah Muhammad, I don't think anybody could outdo him. He was good. And it's like he had a photographic mind. So listen to him and then look at Message to the Black Man. He would almost quote verbatim. And that's why everybody was so fascinated with what he was saying. He could give the message verbatim. So we used to meet in these classes. Now this class was during the morning. We used to meet like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And he would have us in there, you know, it was supposed to be an hour. The class was supposed to be an hour long, but they used to turn into 2, 3, 4-hour classes. And he would just move. And later that afternoon, that evening, he would hold the minister's class. But what he was doing with us, the instructors at the university, was getting his, you know, message together to give to the ministers that he was going to meet with later on that day. So it's like we were sort of like guinea pigs to see how this worked. But at that time, we were really building. The steak and tapes were all over the city. We had businesses, we had trucks, we had cars, we had fish trucks with freezers in them that would deliver fish all over the city. We had a big factory warehouse out in Farmingdale, where the ships would bring the fish, stack it up. We were really, really moving.
Why do you need
Whitey H&G. Yeah, we used to, get 20-pound boxes and, 10-pound boxes and 5-pound boxes. We got snappers too. Yeah, sardines in the can. We had the farm, we had eggs in the farm. In fact, that's how I fed my family. Because we weren't making any money at the University of Islam. I think at one time the salary had gone down to something they do about $65, $70. And the most as a teacher that I did. No, we did. We got paid every year. Yeah, we did. But the most I was making as a teacher was $125. When I started off, I had one daughter. By the time 1975 came, I had 5. And I was, my money wasn't so good. So what I would do is take that salary and I would turn it over. I used to go out to Avenue D and buy 2 cases of jumbo eggs. They used to service us at the Salam restaurant. Great big eggs, fresh eggs. And then I would get bean pies. I had a sister, Alberta X. She made a bean pie. I haven't tasted one like that since. Crust was about this thin, and it was out. It melted in your mouth. I had dropped one off at my mother and father's house, and they told me later, don't bring any of that back here. I think what happened, they kept on eating it, and being that they were older, they got indigestion. They ate the whole pie. She was good. Then I would go out to see Brother Ed and buy sausages. I get like 40 pounds of sausage. They had a place right down here, Jessup, right here on Fulton Street. And then Captain Shaw had the daily juice. So I had daily juice, I had eggs, I had bean pies. I think that's about it. I tried to keep it, about that. And I had a car. I would fill that up, take it Saturday, all day Saturday. I would up and down the steps delivering this food. And I got enough money to take care of my business at the mosque and feed my family. So, I used to hear the minister say, all you got to do, like, throw your bread on the water, throw your bread in the fish will cut. I took that little bit of money I had and threw it out there, and it came back 7 times. And I was able to do all the things that I needed to do. As I begin to wrap up here, in 1965, Imam Muhammad, one thing I didn't mention to you, I was the FOI secretary in 1969, right after I finished the orientation class. The captain had made me the FOI secretary, Fruit of Islam. I was secretary of all of the classes that went on in the mosque. We used to have an FOI class every Saturday, and it was my responsibility to develop the lessons that would be taught during that particular period of time. And every week I would give to the lieutenants or to the assistant ministers a list of things that I wanted them to teach on, and they would come before the fruit and teach the fruit on these various subjects. And that was part of my job. So I had 2 hats. During the weekdays, I was the instructor or principal, and during the weekends and mosque meetings, I was the FOI secretary. So I had a double duty there. In 1975, I was stopped by the Captain Shaw. He called me over to the car. Brother FOI secretary, come over here. I went over to the car. He says, I want to let you know that we expect a visitor here tomorrow. This is January 18th, 1975. I said, okay. He said, we want this to be special. Make sure you have a special program set up for this particular person. He told me who it was. It was who we later called Imam W.D. Muhammad. He was coming to speak to the FOI in New York City at the FOI class. So we got a little special thing. I went and got Razi Hassan. He's now a professor of chemistry at one of the colleges outside. Anwar Aziz, Dr. Anwar Aziz, he was a doctor up there at Harlem Hospital. I was on the program, my brother, FOI secretary from Brooklyn, was on my staff. John Omar, who Imam Muhammad took with him out to Chicago. He was a professor at Borough Manhattan College, BBMC, and he went back out to Chicago with Imam. So it's only, you've got to bring this brother on. So he was supposed to be there. Class started at 8 o'clock. So around 7:45, I went downstairs because I wasn't going to let him come in the building by himself. So when he came up, I saw him. But because they had told me in advance, don't look for him to come in a Mercedes Benz. Don't look for him to come in a Cadillac, with 5 or 6 people escorting him. When I looked up, he was walking down the street. You know those hats that have the earmuffs on them that puts up at the top over here? He had one of those hats on. He had his overcoat pulled up over him, and he was walking down 116th Street by himself. This is how our Imam traveled. He didn't travel with an entourage like you see. He was just on his own. I welcomed him and took him upstairs, and that was the end of the Nation of Islam as we knew it, and the beginning of a totally new experience for the believers in the masjid. That day was a day to remember. It was he turned the place out. I guess that's the best way I can say it. I can recall sitting there listening to him because I had to be near the podium because my job as the FY secretary was to introduce the people who were going to speak. And when his turn came up, he spoke, and I was like, I thought that this thing worked like, the minister's got a Mercedes Benz, the minister got a house up in New Rochelle somewhere, and then maybe somewhere down the line it would get down to the teachers, and the teachers would live like that too. But he came and he really put a calm over it and said, that's not going to happen like that. But I just had in my mind that it would. I see you didn't call. I don't want to, hold you too much longer. But that's how the Nation of Islam then became a part of what we then call the world community of Islam and followers of Imam W.D. Muhammad. He eclipsed everything that was going on prior to that. It was like the sun coming up. It's something new. It was a brand new day for Islam here in the West for us. And basically, if you have any questions, as you said later on, I'll take those questions.
Hold on. Before you start, George, we had someone looking through the window just a quick second ago, and he decided to come inside. He's running to an event, but I want to bring Imam Benjamin Bilal up to introduce him. And he's significant in the history of the Nation of Islam, particularly around Malcolm X. We asked him to come in and say a few words about that history that you won't probably read in the books. So Imam Benjamin Bilal, come on, and then we'll come back.
And once again, assalamu alaikum. And we just ask that I don't even consider this to be an interruption in the program, although it's unplanned, but we know that Allah is the best of planners. And whenever I see an unusual kind of thing happen, I know it's because whatever we're participating in is of such a good nature that Allah is actually sending you an extra added reward for that, because I've known this man, I've known about this man, I'll put it that way, for many, many years. In my study of the history of the Nation of Islam, I'm actually working on a motion picture that just got funded to tell the complete story of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, so that you'll be able to go to your local theater and see it. It'll be an actual movie for the American public and for the world public to view. And many years ago, I actually interviewed this man in person and on the phone concerning his relationship to Minister Malcolm X, who all of you have heard of. He was a very close friend, very close, what we would call a confidant of Minister Malcolm